It's hailed as one of the greatest films ever made, a cinematic masterpiece that redefined the gangster genre. But the journey to the screen was a battlefield.
The first Godfather was just like nonstop anxiety and wondering when I was going to get fired.
At the center of the storm was a director fighting for his vision, and the relatively unknown actor he championed for the pivotal role of Michael Corleone.
104.
While we were shooting, they kept saying, well, when is he going to do something? And the studio kept seeing this footage coming back, and they said, well, he doesn't, he seems dull.
As filming progressed, the pressure mounted, bringing both the actor and the director to the brink of dismissal.
I was out.
But to properly understand this conflict, you have to understand what was happening at that time in the world of movie making.
Would you believe that Paramount was bought, 5 years before The Godfather was made? The entire studio was bought for $600,000.
The old studio system was crumbling and being absorbed by massive corporations with little understanding of the movie business.
Charlie Bluedorn was the head of Gulf Western, which was a giant conglomerate. It had bought Paramount.
Paramount Pictures was in deep financial trouble.
Paramount needed a hit, obviously, and they got a hit, by the way, in Love Story.
The success of Love Story bought the studio some time, but head of production Robert Evans needed a blockbuster. He pinned his hopes on Mario Puzo's sensational bestseller, The Godfather. But there was an immediate problem. Nobody wanted to make it.
Richard Brooks, Costa Gavras, Elia Kazan, Arthur Penn, they all turned it down.
After established directors rejected the project, Paramount turned to a young filmmaker, Francis Ford Coppola.
Francis happened to have been fairly new in the business. He only made 3 films, and he didn't even want to make the picture.
Francis and George Lucas and I and a number of others had all run away from Los Angeles.
Coppola and his partners at American Zoetrope dreamed of an independent cinematic utopia in San Francisco, but that dream was collapsing under financial strain.
Zoetrope Studios in San Francisco was in a terrible financial crisis at the time.
Things got grimmer and grimmer on the American Zoetrope front. I started encouraging Francis to think about survival more than anything else. And basically this Godfather idea was a lifeboat.
Coppola took the job not out of passion, but desperation. Once committed, Coppola refused to make a standard gangster picture. He saw something deeper, a dark, classical tragedy.
I began to become fascinated with it as a story of succession, the so-called story of a king with 3 sons.
Because a man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man.
But the studio didn't share his ambition. The book's massive popularity meant every executive had an opinion, and they all pointed toward a cheaper, more commercial project. The first battle was over the film's setting.
One of the things they wanted to do was to not film it as a period piece in 1946, but instead to bring it up to the 1970s, make it contemporary.
Coppola won the fight to keep the film a period piece, but the war was just beginning. The most brutal fights centered on who would play the Corleones. The first major conflict was over the Don himself.
And I knew that my ideas regarding the casting were not popular.
Coppola wanted Marlon Brando, but the studio considered him washed up, difficult, and box office poison.
He was having a lot of problems. Every time he mentioned Brando's name, one of the executives said, if you mention his name again, you're out.
Coppola had to beg. The studio finally gave in, but only under humiliating conditions.
If he puts up a bond guaranteeing that none of his shenanigans will cause a delay, you can consider him.
Coppola secured Brando, but the battle for Michael Corleone would prove even tougher.
Where's Michael? We're not taking the picture without Michael.
Paramount wanted a star, a recognizable, bankable name.
The studio had Robert Redford in mind. In fact, if you read the book, Michael looks like Robert Redford.
Coppola remained fixated on an intense, but mostly unknown, New York stage actor, Al Pacino.
When I read The Godfather, whenever I would see the character of Michael, I saw Al's face.
My father told Hallie that either his signature or his brains would be on the contract.
The studio was entirely underwhelmed. They forced Pacino to audition repeatedly through an agonizing cycle of screen tests, all while they continued to look at other actors.
They tried to kill him, my father. They did.
And he kept sneaking Al in, At the end of the day, he kept testing Al,
I was relatively young, so I didn't know quite. I thought, well, maybe they were all like this. I remember saying at the time, I just don't respond well to being around where I'm not wanted.
The constant rejection and the studio's clear lack of faith took a heavy toll on the young actor. Pacino, facing open hostility, was ready to walk away.
I was aware that they didn't want me. Okay, finally, I thought, Francis, look, we'll do another movie together. Well, anyway, he just stayed with it. It was his tenacity, and that got me in there.
You look beautiful. It's beautiful.
Coppola won the casting war, but when filming began, the tension didn't ease. It escalated.
The powers that be at the studio, as they were seeing the dailies, were horrified.
They found the cinematography too dark, Brando's performance mumbling, and Coppola's pacing far too slow. The atmosphere on set grew toxic.
I remember once being in the men's room, some crew members came in and they were talking, what a piece of junk, and that guy doesn't know what he's doing.
The studio even threatened to send in a separate director just to handle the scenes with violence. Convinced Coppola was incompetent, Paramount had a replacement director waiting on standby, ready to take over the moment Coppola was fired.
The man in charge of production didn't feel Coppola was competent. Someone was being warmed up in the wings to substitute for Francis.
While Coppola fought to save his job, Al Pacino was facing his own crisis.
They kept saying, well, when is he going to do something?
His portrayal of Michael in the early scenes is intentionally quiet and observant. The studio, expecting a fiery gangster performance, saw only a dull, uncharismatic actor.
And the studio kept seeing this footage coming back, and they said, he seems dull.
The consensus was clear. Pacino had to go.
I was out, and then the Sollozzo scene came.
I'm glad you came, Mike. I hope we can straighten everything out.
Everything hinged on one upcoming sequence. It was a moment that changes Michael Corleone forever. The assassination of Sollozzo and McCluskey, which pushed Michael into a life of crime, was executed with chilling precision.
They kept me after that scene. That looked pretty good, I guess. They wanted me to assert myself, so there's that kind of assertion.
In that explosion of violence, the studio finally saw the leading man they wanted. Michael Corleone had arrived. When the executives saw the cut footage, the pressure vanished overnight. The scene not only saved Al Pacino's job, but it also saved Francis Ford Coppola.
It was an extraordinary experience, both terrible and wonderful at the same time.
The Godfather went on to massive critical and commercial success, winning the Academy Award for Best Picture and securing the legacies of both Coppola and Pacino. The battles fought behind the scenes forged the film into the classic it is today.
When I look back on the pleasure of it, I guess the pleasure looking back is the thing. That's the pleasure, that you're able to look back and that you survived.